Hello and welcome. I'm Nerdarchist Dave from Nerdarchy for nerds by nerds, and as always, I'm hanging out with this nerd, whichever way he happens to be.
Nerdarchist Ted.
So, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. Kind of amped for the our game this Saturday. I believe we're on session 4, and I've been in preparation. Both at the crafting table as well as at the prep table for making some new monsters and stuff for you guys to fight. I'm getting all kinds of geared up for D&D in a castle, and if that's not enough, not this Saturday, but next Saturday is free RPG day.
That's a lot of stuff. Do you want to tell the people listening about your game this weekend?
So we've been running, a fifth edition game. Plans on being a 12 session story arc. Got 7 players, and last session and this session we're going to be 2 players down, but the players are uncovering elements of a wizard who is dealing with biomancy, which is magic that is essentially grafting parts from one creature to another, as well as magical genetic engineering.
All good stuff. I know the last session I had a lot of fun with that, but I guess we're here to talk about aberrations tonight.
So, I mean, aberrations are, one of the, I think one of the cooler monsters or monster sets to use because they pretty much come with a alien mindset. So it's really easy to just be like, all right, I want to put in, this logic train of thought, and an aberration can be like, yeah, that totally makes sense to me. It doesn't to a normal person, but to them, it's just fine.
So, I jumped on D&D Beyond real quick and just sorted everything by two things. One, by aberration, and there is 59 aberrations currently in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons from official source material, and they range from CR a quarter all the way up to 16. I'm a little disappointed we don't have any truly epic aberration monsters quite yet. On par with like demon lords and some of the more powerful angels and dragons and what have you. And I feel like we really should, right? When you think about the Cthulhu mythos, which I'm going to say is the progenitor to aberrations in D&D.
I would agree. I think it's just we're waiting for the right time. But I definitely agree with you that it is something that we do need. It is something that should be there, and there's really not enough created end bosses short of the Tarask, which doesn't have the ability to think, uh, beyond that of a beast, dragons and demon lords.
So one of the things that was kind of cool about Eberron is they kind of redefined aberrations quite a bit, because in Eberron you did have the version of a demon lord, the Dakir, I think they were called, or Dakir. I'm probably saying it wrong, but they were these uber powerful beings. They were from the realm of Zariat, and they had led several incursions into the world of Eberron, Kavera trying to take over, and it was kind of cool to see how they like re-envisioned the different monsters. Like beholders had a different role in the realm of Zariat. Like they used them as living artillery, as opposed to what we've come to know and expect from beholders in normal D&D.
And that's one of the things that I really appreciated about Eberron. To take something that is a classic like Beholders and be like, we're gonna turn this on its side a little bit. And since Beholders can kind of reorient themselves, being them turned on their side wasn't a big deal.
Absolutely. So, I know I've used plenty of aberrations in my own games. Matter of fact, several of them have made it to the realm of NPCs.
Uh,
In
that's very true.
Yeah, in the long running game that I ran for you and the Gobelos and Nerdarchist Ryan, you guys had encountered a Nothic who had been mutated by a chaos storm into this like giant-sized Nothic with, basically crystals growing out of his spine. What was it? Murphy McCrystaltop.
Murphy McChrystal. Yep.
The Gobblos named them, and they're usually high. That's why he has a weird name.
Well, for the Gobblos, that's a pretty easygoing name. I think Murphy McCrystaltop was pretty awesome. I enjoyed role playing with him. The numerous times that we wound up doing, but that wasn't the only one. You wound up having a Grick that was in the Underdark.
Grell. That is correct. Are they aberrations or are they? Oh no, yes, they are absolutely aberrations. I did double check. I was like, are they aberrations or are they monstrosities?
They're pretty much an aberration. Yeah, that's one of the easy ways that you can
spot them.
Tell.
Do they have an octopus has tentacles?
That is true, and it's not true for all of them because I think the audio that's still a monstrosity, right?
Nope, that's an aberration too.
That's
matter of fact, I was having trouble finding it the other day, and that was because it's an aberration. I don't know about carrion crawler is another one that I'm always confused on. But so I think carrion crawler is a monstrosity, I believe, but that one is technically. So sometimes it seems very arbitrary what's an aberration and what's not.
So, and like I think third edition had a little bit clearer guidelines, between beast and monstrosity and aberration, and I think they changed it. There was a different categorization. I don't know if monstrosity was it.
It was monstrous. It wasn't monstrous humanoid, was it?
Monstrous humanoid is still a thing. All right, well, I just happen to have a third edition monster manual over here.
Yeah, but it definitely wasn't monstrosity. Oh, because there wasn't a beast category before. It was just...
magical beast.
Yeah,
that was the thing. So that's what your displacer beast is, and that kind of stuff. So if it was kind of animalian but had powers, it was a magical beast. But if it was totally alien, then it wound up falling into the aberrations category.
Okay, so Lord Null 1, aberrations tend to have mind powers. So if it has tentacles and mind powers, it is probably an aberration.
Unless it's from the planes, and then it's planar.
Nah, I think a lot of times it still works that way too. I mean, as far as the tentacles and mind powers. So, all right. So there was an aberration question. CP Oats 777. What's the difference between aberrations and monstrosities? I would say the mindset. To be honest with you, I think that tends to be more of the distinction than anything. A monstrosity is something that you could almost envision being a real world animal or creature under the right circumstances, where an aberration tends to be a more bizarre, more alien in both, their not only just their appearance, but also in their mindset and maybe possibly even how they perceive the world. Like a beholder is a great example, not because of the way they look, but because of their mindset and also how beholders are made, right? Another beholder is generally made when the beholder sleeps and dreams about itself. And then another beholder appears, is created from their dream stuff, and then they fight. And if both of them survive the fight, then there is now one more beholder in the world.
Makes sense to me.
So it's kind of like that. But yeah, you're right. I had used the Grell as an NPC, and of course, he was a mobster in the Underdark. I forget his name though. But he was fun. It's been a while since I used him.
Yeah, that was going back quite a ways because I mean we came back after that exchange, and the Gobelos had brought some mushroom men to bring their own new drugs into Griffin Gaff.
Yeah, I want to say it was something like Jack, but that wasn't it.
Gentleman Jack, that was it.
Uh, Never mind. Yeah, so Gentleman Jack, because I like taking these really bizarre and fantastical creatures,
Because
and then giving them like a mundane name.
he had a top hat and a monocle, even though like it's
He's
a
got no
growth and
eyes.
got no eyes, but he's got a monocle wedged into his brain.
He was the Mr. Peanut of the Growl.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun to role play with, but the alien mindset, man.
So we've got a question: if mind flayers are so smart, why don't they try something different and grow brains or something?
They do. They're called
Same.
intellect hours.
Well, that's true. Well, they kind of like corrupt them. They
And
also
and
keep slaves, so
the reason mind flayers don't take over is because of nice GMs. That's why. Because if mind flayers decided that they wanted to take over, they would.
nah. I think it's a little bit more than that. They have a lot of enemies.
Yeah, but they also have a lot of friends that they just make.
Well, that's true, but
Dominator, now mine.
you figure the Dugar are their hated enemy. There is the Githzerai and Githzerel, or Githzerai and Githyanki are also hated enemies that actually actively go out and hunt them.
That is true, and that does cut down on their rating potential. But I mean, we've read about a handful of different things that had to be dealt with mind flayers, with illithids, and it's just too easy.
Also, I think the other like really big problem is with evil in general, right? They're just not good at working together. Like they always undermine themselves. That's why the
Yeah,
true evil party doesn't really work.
having been in a number of unsuccessful evil campaigns, I have to agree with you.
See, the big bad Pat off subject. I'm planning on start DMing for the first time a homebrew campaign. I'm sort of 40 to 60% done writing it, but I'm afraid I will miss some points. Anyone know where to go to gather more info? Test. It don't matter, man. Once you make contact with the enemy, the plan will not survive. Just you got plenty. You'll never have enough. Like you're never done.
Which is why it's just easier to just not write anything, and you
Don't.
know,
Well, I wouldn't say that. Don't listen to Ted. If you are a first time GM and you're new to this,
all right, yeah, you're right.
write a bunch of stuff and just accept that sometimes it's not going to work out and your players aren't going to do the things that you write. They're going to do other stuff. But
Have,
get it, Ted.
I was gonna say have a couple backups. One of the things that we always say is to have a random encounter that could be put anywhere, so that you can, at least if they decide they're going to go completely off the rails in another direction from what you have planned, you can put in a battle, and while that battle is going on, you've got the ability to rethink your plan and figure out, is there anything from that original material that you can still use? Can you move something? Can you use an NPC? um, you know but as a first time GM, you have the ability to be like, look guys, you went in a way I'm not wasn't ready for. Can you give me 5 minutes? Can and if you talk to them about it, they might decide, oh well, I'm willing to go this way, or they'll give you that 5 minutes for a quote unquote smoke break, bathroom break, and food break while you figure out what you want to do next.
And if it gets really desperate, just set a fire someplace in the house.
I don't recommend arson. It's kind of
All
frowned
right.
upon.
Disclosure: Nerdarchy does not approve or condone arson to buy more time to create more content material for your players. Leonardo Pimenta, how does a beholder work as a BBEG? They don't. They have slaves for that. Ba-bump.
But using a beholder as your big bad totally works. They have that mindset of they are superior, so you can honestly be like, look, they don't think if it doesn't look like them, it should be eradicated. So it could totally work, and they might be willing to have lackeys and have things, and it's like they don't need to tell their lackeys that, well, once everything else is wiped out, you're going too. But that could be something that you can work with and have a lot of fun with.
One of the fun and interesting things about beholders is because they naturally float and levitate, and they have a disintegration ray. The dungeon that you create, the lair that you create for them, you have to think 3-dimensionally. They're going to have areas where they keep slaves and lackeys that are separate from maybe even their own living quarters by the fact that it's so difficult to get to it, because if you can't fly or you have to climb sheer surfaces to get there, it's going to be super tricky. And they're going to, they're super smart, so they're going to use this stuff to their advantage.
So I created for my Death Tyrant, which is an undead beholder, a lair that it had a whole bunch of spherical chambers that were connected with these tubes. So if you weren't really flying, you really had no way to move through the area. And there were times where it was literally a possibility of players falling and being knocked out from just the fall damage. So if you want to do that, definitely think in that 3-dimensional pattern and think away from, well, it's just a cavern.
And you might even do some interesting things like maybe the beholder hollows out areas in the ceilings, and then just stacks a bunch of heavy things there, or or spikes, or a platform with spikes in it or whatever. And in the middle of the fight they do something unexpected where they're like, it shoots a disintegration ray at the ceiling, and you're like, that's weird, they totally missed. And then that piece of ceiling is gone. It was supporting a deadfall or something. So you could do interesting things like that as well, and take into consideration their different eye rays for for the encounters. You might also, for beholder, because they can work in that 3-dimensional
element
space, you could have them do hit and run tactics on your players. They hit them and then they float straight up and then off to the side, and they have so much more mobility, and they know the terrain, so you could use them to soften them up for a while. And they're gonna use minions first and soften them up with those as well.
So Volo's Guide to Monsters does have a section on beholder lairs. Kobolds does have a book of lairs. A Kobold Press, has a book of lairs that gives further information on just creating lairs for specific monsters. So if you're really looking to dive deep and create this terrain for a memorable encounter with something as alien as aberrations, that's definitely a good places to start.
So Christopher O'Neill, could an aberrant be something that defies reality and thus definition in some ways, why monstrous creatures are more epic, bigger, but grander in real form? So monstrosities are really just anything that, in my opinion, could be a real world animal for the most part, and they tend to not be magical in nature. I would say not all of them, but a good many of them don't have magical abilities.
Right, but they have something about them that is beyond normal, and some of them, like in the old days, it's like, oh, the crazy wizard did it. So like combined creatures like your owlbear, your chimera, your hippogriff, they're gonna fall into that category. They don't have magical abilities, but they don't look normal.
So Zareth Gaming has a question for us. I'm acknowledging your question, Zareth, but I'm pretty sure neither of us actually know what that is. What is your guys' opinion on the Ilgak, the secret society of Illithids?
It's totally a thing, and acknowledging their presence means they're coming after you.
I tell you, you don't know what it is either. Then
I believe
is that a
no,
Forgotten Realms thing?
I believe it was in the different, like during second edition there were the different books, and I think one of them was on Illithids, and I think it came out in that, but I could be wrong.
Oh, I totally had that book, but there's no way I'm going to remember that from AD&D like 20 years ago.
It sounds familiar, but I could not tell you anything about it.
That because that series was like the best series.
That was awesome.
I had the Sahagan book, I had the Beholder book, and I had the Illithid book. I don't know if they did any others.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great books that the lore aspect and the advice aspect, are apropos to any edition. So those are good books to get if you can find them.
Sorry, I was reading a one of the things. So Brandon, background Beholder, had hit me the charm ray, so I had to protect both my party and the Beholder. Thus, mass suggestion on everyone.
Can we just stop fighting? Does that work?
Bam. That definitely works. Although yup, it worked. And now we all have jobs. Our boss is great. Oh man,
none of those pesky days off we wanted.
Yeah. Elfie, I miss the Van Ryken guides. They were great too. All the Ravenloft box sets. Dark. What was it? Was it Dark Domains? I don't remember the name of it, but it was great. I loved all of the different. Or was it Domains of Dread?
I think it was Domains of Dread.
But I loved all the different domains. They were pretty sick.
I didn't get into Ravenloft as much as say Nate or the briefly mentioned Mellish Chris, but I'm briefly aware of some of that stuff that's out there.
Well, the content was really good from that stuff, but yeah, our group didn't play in it much, and even before that. We did play. One of my buddies had run the original Castle Ravenloft adventure for us, but it's back. It's back when we weren't really that good at D&D, and it was a totally different experience than if we were to play it today.
Well, my friend Chris, he ran a plane hopping game that. Let's see. Let's take all the planes that are not easy to get into or out of, and we're going to use those as our base. So we went from his prime into Dark Sun and Ravenloft, and it was like, let's take all the worlds that these particular players happen to like, and that was the game that we went to 20th level, and it was one good guy, one neutral guy, and one evil guy. So it was fun.
Andrew Harderman, question, why no goldfish beholders? It's not like there's a lack of goldfish streams. Because goldfish are not aberrations, therefore they don't have weird, bizarre things happen when they dream.
Either that or, the goldfish are really the power behind it all, and they're just not allowing you to know that.
Maybe. It could be. Like the mice?
Well, yeah, the mice on Earth, but I mean, isn't that what it says in Xanathar's guide?
I don't actually know. I don't remember because I have a brain like a goldfish and nothing stays there long. Big Bad Pat, how long do you plan on streaming on for? We stream for about an hour, so we're coming up on the halfway mark, but we're not there yet. You guys are stuck with us for like another 30 minutes or so. Taurus, question, what are interesting ways to get a PC to go hunt down a monster that isn't like a bounty? It's people are disappearing, people are getting ripped apart. It took something from the village, it took something from the players. You need a component from it in order to make a potion that's going to cure a magical disease or curse. Um, it's something that killed the family of one of the adventurers in their backstory. I don't know. I think there's a bunch of ways to get them to hunt monsters that aren't a bounty.
You can go in the if you don't want to use the regular bounty, you could be like, well, this NPC is an exobiologist and he wants to study it. Um, you know, Exobiology is not really a thing in D&D, but whatever the closest thing is, it wants to study the creature, and it can't do so if it's trying to cut its head off. So go bring it the dead one.
Or you could totally crocodile hunter it, and they do want to study it alive.
Have a look at these.
So I feel like there is a bunch of ways to get there.
I mean, there's no shortage of options. I mean, honestly, you could, if you want them to just fight it, just so that they can fight it. Random encounter, dude. It's not really a thing in 5th edition as much as it was in earlier editions, but there's nothing to say that you can't just be like, bam, it's here.
So, Ted.
Yes, sir.
Are there any aberrations that you really want to use that you haven't used yet?
Well, I think at some point in time, I'd really like to explore mind flayers a little bit, because I don't know if I've ever I know I've never properly used them. I don't know if I've ever used them as like a random encounter type scenario, but I think mind flayers would be something good to really explore. But I mean, that's not a simple encounter. That's a campaign or a campaign arc that you have to deal with. I mean, even if you're talking about a single or a group of them working together outside of their collective, it's not a, oh, look, here they are, fight. It's not a good way to do it.
Now, I actually did have one kind of planned. I don't know if you want to call that a side quest.
Okay.
Or not, in the game that I'm running now.
Okay.
So the Gobelos were missing for a session or two.
Mm-hmm.
So I had them make up a story as to why they weren't there.
All right. This is interesting.
Well, because it's how they got the apparatus of Kawash.
Right.
And and not only that, they also uncovered a mystery about what happened to their patron, this crazy old woman that basically put them up, left them everything when she died, and would go watch them perform. Like her sons and her husband had all vanished.
Right.
So they had kind of found out what happened to them, but it was never really explored.
So there was aberrations behind that.
An aboleth.
Nice. I think another aboleth is another good one.
I was gonna put an aboleth in the river someplace.
Oh, that would be a nice fun combat to go play with.
I do see questions. So, Brian Smith, lots of aberrations are pretty strong. Which ones would work best scaled back for a low-level party encounter? Well, I mean, I think if you talk about scaling back, it doesn't matter as much, because you can pretty much use anything. It's just a matter of how much do you have to scale back. And also what are you trying to get out of the encounter as well? Is it just combat, or are you looking for something else?
I mean, knowing the the why, or the why you want to use something can give you the how or the what, or what have you. Those those writing W's are very very useful.
There is a reduced threat adiug in D&D Beyond.
Ooh.
So I think it's like a CR3 instead of a 5. So that option is in there. And and that's a good. The reduced threat adiug is from Dead and Thye. I know there's a couple monsters that are like that, where they made reduced versions. So that would probably be kind of a good place to look to see what the differences are, and how they, what they did to make it weaker and lower the CR.
So I mean, you can always throw an injured creature. It's got less hit points. It's got reduced stats, or it does less damage, or both. And give it a reason for why it's been injured, and decide what they're gonna do. Are they just gonna go kill the thing that looks weird, or are they gonna be like, oh my god, this thing needs help, and see where that story goes?
Well, actually, so I'm looking at it, right, and it looks like, let's see, it looks like, so one of the things they did is so it just says they have a trait called reduced threat. This creature has -2 penalty on all ability checks and saving throws. So that's one of the ways they made it weaker. They gave it approximately half the hit points. And I think from there things are looking kind of the same.
Okay.
So that's an interesting way of doing it. Yeah, I think everything else is pretty much the same. Kind of like flipping back and forth between them. And yes, so -2 to saving throws, all ability checks, and they just literally half the hit points.
And what's the CR difference on that?
2.
5 down to a 3.
5 down to a 3.
Half in hit points, man. That's rough.
It's kind of weird because and for hit points it's showing 12d10 -9, even though it has a 19 Constitution on the reduced one. So they just did some dirty math. It looks like, and made it weaker.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know. I would definitely do it a different way. I'd give it, like, okay, instead of 12d10 -9, I'd give it the, okay, it's got 6d10 plus whatever the appropriate con is.
Well, they kind of did that with in the final result.
Oh, okay.
But because it's literally half the hit points, but they just didn't do the math for it, so it's a little weird. But I guess it works. Let's see. Question: how to add anime magic to D&D without breaking the game?
Well, it depends upon what you mean by anime magic. If you're talking about over the top, crazy, ridiculous visuals, just add in the visuals. But if you're talking about, adding in the crazy, over the top effects, that's going to break the game.
It's not quite designed for that.
I mean, we've talked around, about doing, 10th level magic, legendary type things, and what kind of stuff that they can do, and there's definitely things that could be done to represent that higher level magic, but it comes down to the why. What are you looking to get out of the game that's not already there? If you want flashy, you can have flashy without it really costing anything extra.
So, I don't know if this is in part of the chat conversation up above somewhere, and I just didn't see it. But the big bad Pat, I cannot stop thinking about a goldfish aboleth. Now, I remember when we did a chat, and I guess we're talking about Xanathar's Guide,
mm-hmm.
and the idea that Zilgar the goldfish was actually a polymorphed aboleth came up. Mm-hmm. So it's like you beat the beholder Xanathar, but something happens and the fish gets killed, breaking the polymorph, and now you have an aboleth to deal with.
Yeah, that was fun. Because I mean, the text inside, like the little disclaimer thing is like, no goldfish were harmed in the making of this book. We definitely changed Stilgar's water, or something along those lines. Don't tell Xanathar. It's very comical that Xanathar cared a lot about his pet goldfish.
Yeah, we just lost a goldfish not long ago.
Well,
Well, it was one of those dumb fundraisers, and my daughter brought home a goldfish. I'm like, don't even buy it food yet. I'd wait a day.
well, we have a beta, and sadly, just recently, Fireworks had passed and has been replaced by Calico.
Oh yeah, how long did it last?
Lasted quite a while. We got it almost a year ago.
They got a shelf life of about 2 years, I think, when I googled it.
Okay, well,
Because my daughter went and replaced it with a beta as well, so they're pretty hardy. Although I don't know how about this one's ability to survive the cats, but because the cats really like it, and earlier today the water feature that's in there had been removed.
wow.
So someone might have been fishing.
Well, I know uh, for ours, we keep the fish in my daughter's room, so the cats don't get to it, and we wind up you know not I don't interact with it at all. It's not my responsibility. It's for the kids to deal with, which is why it's not going to last as long. But is what it is.
So a little bit off topic. I don't know if you saw this, Ted, but well, I guess we mentioned it earlier. I don't know if you caught that or not, but so Wizards of the Coast is doing a thing with Netflix for animated Magic the Gathering thing.
I did see that, and I'm intrigued.
I'm not even a fan of Magic the Gathering, but I am intrigued as well. Well, a while back, they had acquired space in Austin, Texas, for non D&D and it was Wizards of the Coast, but for non D&D products. And we're like, what are they going to do with it if it's not role playing games, and it's not Magic? So now maybe that's what they're doing. That's what maybe that's going to end up being the studio or something.
That would be interesting, and I think anything that benefits Wizards benefits the nerdy community. Um, I mean, we, as sad as it is to say, like, Magic the Gathering is so much, brings in so much more economy for Wizards than D&D. So anytime Magic gets the limelight and gets better, it's like, yay, Wizards is still around.
So just on here for the benefit, YouTube, how to properly add emotional scarring and problems on a character. Now, are you the player of said character or the GM of said character? Because if you're the player, it's just about role playing.
It's taking what happens and owning it. And a lot of times, if you're the player, you really do you have to accept what's there and be willing to take in small details and have them mean something. In the Dawnbringers game, the Thursday night game that I'm in, we just finished session 14 of second season, and like in session 13, I brought up that, hey, for the first time, the bard gave me inspiration. So, and that was in session 12. So 13, I'm like, hey, I want to thank you for finally accepting me into the group. And she's like, what do you mean? From pretty much moment one, you're a part of the group. You're that guy's cousin. You actually got a solid head on your shoulders, which is kind of scary considering he's a barbarian who talks to spirits that no one else can see. But because his interpretation was different than hers, she just is like, hey, I inspire whoever's next in the order. And I look at it and I'm like, well, this was the first time that those things actually lined up. But it was kind of cool. So I took a practically meaningless mechanical thing and turned it into, a meaningful role-playing thing.
You're on your way to being scarred. A couple more sessions without that bardic inspiration, your character was going to be scarred for life. Tell us, sir. Show us on the doll where the bard touched you.
But I mean, that's just, that's an example of something that you can take that's practically meaningless and, doing something with it. So suppose, a character gets dropped, or perhaps, someone in the party gets charmed or gets turned against their allies. Like, those kind of things could leave deep emotional effects on your character. It's like, hey, we're sitting here fighting each other while there's a real enemy out there. What the hell is going on? And like, as long as you're willing to get into the RP of it and really talk about it and take like sessions to work through it or work it out or have it never go away, like, these are great things that you can do. Now, from the GM side of it, like, you have to know how the players are going to react. Like, you have to know, like, all right, it is not easy to emotionally scar a character unless their player is willing to buy into that. Oh, how many adventurers have a golden upbringing? Like, how many of them don't have some family member that's been killed or gone missing or what have you? There's a reason these guys are adventurers. They're messed up to begin with. So when you really get into it, like, all right, something bad happened. You lost a brother, you lost a party member. Maybe you lost a brother who was the people's party member, like our friend Mark's, character in my first, game here. Like, you can go in a lot of different directions with it. But if the players don't have buy-in on your sell, if they can't get into what it is that you're putting down, you're not going to have it.
So I've had a couple instances where, one, it's like Ted said. First of all, your players have to really be into it for it to work, or there's nothing you're going to do that is going to matter to them. Like, they have to care about the character, they have to care about the world and the NPCs around that character, for it to really have any kind of impact. But there's definitely been instances in my games where some of the players that were really vested, and I've thrown a twist at them that kind of upset the players because they were attached, and not really in a bad way, just that they were just into the game. Like Megan got upset when her character forgot, and her character's riding dog forgot who they were to each other, and so it was like kind of really sad in the game, but it was like, it was a cool moment for that player. Also, in the Goblo game, they, like I had mentioned, they had this crazy old woman who was kind of rich that was a patron, and they were like living with her, and she treated them like they were her sons, and she was somewhat crazy, but at the same time she knew she was crazy. So, like, some of her antics, like, she would always treat the Goblos like kids, like they were her boys. But she would definitely have moments where she was lucid and be like, yeah, I know you're really not my children, or that you're even kids for that matter. But I had that character pass away in that game of old age, and then she just died. There was nothing the players could do, and like, she was just about ready to pass away, or it just happened, and I had the players all summoned, and even Ted's character, who's the cleric, a high level cleric, and that shows up, and they're like, "Can't you do anything?" And he's just like, "I can't. She's just old."
Well, in that same game, like, we made a decision, and it was the wrong one, and we wound up allowing an entire city to die or get wasted. The refugees fled, and what have you, but it was crazy. And all because we made a decision of of which way to go. Do we follow the monster or do we not? And we didn't, and there were consequences. And Relion still feels bad about that. That it's like, look, we didn't know what to do here. Actually, no, we followed the monster. We didn't go into the dungeon.
You didn't investigate, yeah.
And it's like, all we had to do was simply, do this one thing, and voila, problem solved. But we did it too late.
Literally, the solution was on the other side of a door. You guys stopped that. And you're like, well, maybe we should go try and stop that thing instead. And then, when you followed, then you came back and it was too late. But, that was like a coin toss of 50-50. There was no way for you guys to really know what the right decision is. But at the same time, it is, and, logically, that's true. But, a character could choose to take that upon themselves and feel responsible, even though it wasn't really their fault.
And Relion, has done that. He's taken it, to heart that, a lot of people suffered because of an incorrect decision.
So I guess we answered that question.
So we got 8:45, and there's a couple, points of business to discuss before we wind up getting out of here. I don't know when you want to get it. I know there are a few more questions specifically related to aberrations.
Why don't you take care of the points of business, and then we'll go back to questions if with whatever time we've got.
All right. So it is June. As I mentioned, in the very beginning of this, we have D&D in a castle coming up. Later. June 15th is Free RPG Day. And it is freerpgday.com if you want to go, look up stuff. If you happen to be in the South Jersey area, my gaming store of choice, which I will be at, is going to be the comic book store in Glassboro, New Jersey. So, I plan to be there when they open. If you want to come hang out, I do have little Nerdarchy swag things to give away that I will make sure I have with me when I go.
What time do they open?
I do believe it's 10 a.m.
And how long do you think you'll be there?
Probably half hour.
Okay, very short window, 10 to 10:30.
I mean, if people reach out and say that I'm gonna be there, and I can't reach that time frame, I can work with it, but I will have my son with me, so it's not gonna be like hey, let's go and spend the day together or any of that kind of stuff. It's Father's Day weekend, there's always stuff going on. But like I said, I'm planning to be there. So if you want to come, meet me, hang out, get free RPG stuff from, comic book store and me, hey, cool. But I also have the June giveaway winner, as well as it is my month to run a fan game. I have actually already reached out to the players via email and the winner of said prize, just because I'm under a short clock, because Dave and I are getting on a plane June 21st. So I was trying to make sure I got stuff out there. So, Dave, I hope you have the book in hand that you have.
I do. Oh, wait a minute. I don't have the other one in hand.
Okay. Do I have it over?
You have it on the shelf behind you, though.
All right. So we are giving away a special edition cover of Ghosts of Saltmarsh from Wizards, as well as the Midgard Handbook, Heroes Handbook, from Kobold Press. So this is going to James Hansen. I've already reached out to you. You've already responded. So I will get these in the mail, shipped out to you in the very near future. But it's also my month to run a fan game. We do these off air, so it's going to be June 14th at 8 p.m. And my players, again, which I've already contacted, one of which, since before I started this, has already replied. We've got Oracle 44, Snurdy, Greg Mortley, who has already responded, Norbert Baggy, DM Kenneth, Sean Gifford, John Diffley, Ark Knight. I hope not all of them. Ron Sargent and Barry Aulis. So the first 4, 5, 6 of those that wind up responding will be in there. I told them, we have a short window of time. It's literally only 10 days, so I'm hoping they respond quickly, so that I can figure out exactly how many spots I need to fill, or whether I need to bump people off, or anyway in between. Meaning bump off the list, not go execute, because not an assassin.
Not today, anyway. uh, let's see. Grim Monolith. I want free stuff. It's easy. There's a form you can fill out and snail mail to us over on the nerdarchy.com website, under like giveaway and contest section.
Contest and giveaway section. If you submit a form there, mail it into our PO box, that gets entered into the thing. Or easier way, join us over on Patreon. Even $1 a month guarantees a spot in that giveaway selection.
Hey, Justin Harris. And yeah, like this month, that's like $100 worth of books, basically.
So MSRP on Midgard Heroes Handbook is $39.99, and Salt Marsh is $49, so $90. So how many years is that at $1 a month?
Yeah, pretty much. You're covered. If you win one time, you're covered for a while. And we also do some other really cool things over there on Patreon as well. At the $2 level, we're actually creating new content for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and we send that out every month. And July is going to be huge. The amount of stuff that we have over there that's going to be going out, that's going to be really cool. It's going to be a book of unique NPCs. Then June is a small book of magic items. I'm actually going to post that up on tomorrow. And also from basically January on, we changed how we do the Patreon rewards. Before, we used to kind of almost like message them to you individually, but we don't do that anymore. If you join and you go back through all the Patreon posts, you will be able to find all the rewards for this year and download them. So there is that.
So as long as that's still a viable thing, then you can come in and grab a whole bunch of stuff.
Justin Harris, I had to shave my beard off. Sounds terrible.
Oh my God! Did you lose a bet?
Yeah.
Did you get an infection? What's going on?
There's a lot of versus questions. I also seen no, I don't want to do that one. Oh, I did want to address this one. It's a valid and decent question from just on here for your benefit, YouTube. How does one include LGBT relationships in games accurately? Honestly, I think it's a better question for that community. Those folks would do a better job of answering it. I can tell you how I've done it in the past. It really hasn't come up in our games very often. I know Ryan had a character that he was angling in that direction and was subtly hitting on the character with the highest charisma in the group. And we didn't play the game long enough for it to fully come out. In my Other Skies game, one of the characters, her mentor, was married. He had a husband. And, the way that I introduced it is, like, in the opening scene, he kind of, like, gave his life to save the group. And, like, his dying, like, request was, hey, can you make sure, I forget the name of each individual NPC, but can you make sure so-and-so knows that I love him? And he was, like, the last thoughts in my mind before leaving this mortal coil, whatever. So I feel like a light touch is the best way to do it. And Doug just pointed out, messaging me over on Facebook, that we have several articles written by members of that community on the Nerdarchy website, so you can go and check over there as well.
So taking that and leaping, all valid points, but leaping back to the whole aberrations, there is a, make a random beholder on the website as well. So if the beholders in the books just aren't good enough and you want random eye stalks, the website is also a good resource for that.
Yeah, there's also a video on that as well on the website. So if you find, I think it's something like randomized.
There's a randomized beholder and a randomized chimera.
Yeah, and if you find that, then it also leads back to the website where we did a discussion on it. So that was actually a pretty fun video for us to do because I think what we did was make a random beholder and some random chimeras
Mm-hmm.
in that.
I liked the chimera that like started off with a rhinoceros. I think that one was pretty awesome.
Can't go wrong with that at all.
All right, so we're down to our last 5 minutes. Touching on a couple of the questions. Vampires and illithids. I think they both feed, so they feed in different ways. I think that would definitely be a interesting scenario. I don't know exactly how that would play out, but I think the people lose. That's what I'm going to say there.
There is the link to the video. So if you wanted to check it out, you could. When we're done here, feel free.
So Brandon says, just joined Patreon last night, and thanks again for your attempt to get my DM to let me play the old style Alchemist. So, awesome. Thanks for joining the Nerdarchy Adventurers Guild.
Yes, we greatly appreciate you guys and gals over there on the Patreon. And Ted mentioned the castle. If you have need for a last minute vacation idea, I believe there is a single spot left in the castle.
You can get in on Doug's table, and come join us. There's going to be an awesome ball. There's going to be hangout time. There's going to be a minimum of 6 sessions of D&D. Doug, Dave, and I have been planning like crazy for a long time. This is going to be an epic experience that you really don't want to miss out on.
Yeah, you're going to get the game with world-class dungeon masters. And we're going to be there too.
Wow.
But it's going to be a good time. So, Caleb wants to know, do you have any tips to make an aboleth more threatening to a high-level party?
Well, I mean, aboleth is, a pretty potent monster by itself. I mean, anytime I'm looking to get into it, I mean, it's a challenge 10. It's got the ability to enslave. So that already gives you the idea that, there's definitely going to be minions. It's already large. So I'd start off making it huge, increase, the overall threat. So you increase its hit dice, you increase its stats, you increase its, essentially your proficiency modifier. You could really go crazy with it and give it a fly ability, so it could leave the water and it's not really stuck, in that regards. It's got legendary actions. You could give it a lair and have lair effects going on.
It already has lair. It actually has really good lair actions. One, it can cast Phantasm of Force, right? And it can keep it going if it keeps concentrating on it, but it can't do other lair effects.
That's the next page. Sorry.
Yeah, it has pools of water within 90 feet of the aboleth surge outward in a grasping tide. Any creature on the ground within 20 feet of the pool must succeed a DC 14 Strength saving throw, or be pulled up to 20 feet into the water or knocked prone. This is great to use on your casters because, one, depending on how deep of the water is that you pull them into, it could be a problem. Two, they're prone, so they have to get up. But, you could pull them down. What if you were to pull them 20 feet underwater and then they have to get up? So that could take up a round from them. I think a lot of it is just using them properly, right? And not just treating them like a stupid monster that's going to sit there and trade blows. I mean, they have an 18 intelligence, so it's a genius level monster. So they should be using minions and mooks up front and not trying to not directly engage their enemies. It would be key. And maybe because they have certain abilities, looking at those lair actions and making sure that the lair is conducive to using them and getting the most out of them.
So I would agree with that. Anytime you have a monster that is, smarter than yourself or is a genius, definitely requires some thought and how to properly plan. And
so the first regional effect, within 1 mile of the aboleth lair are slimy and wet and are considered difficult terrain. Think about that, right? Even with that ability to grab them with water and knock them over, if you use it on the wizard, there's a good possibility they're going to fail their saving throw. And if they have to stand up, that's half their movement. If for whatever reason they need to move anywheres, it's difficult terrain, so it costs double movement. And that's just like 2 of the abilities. They have a bunch more.
Well said.
And then I guess the other thing is use minions that aren't going to be affected by their lair action and stuff. Or I might even just say, even if there's nothing that says they're not, like if you use the scum monsters that are in the Ghosts of Saltmarsh, I believe they're in here, I would say that they're not affected by that slime because it's considered a natural habitat to them.
Right.
And so that, again, gives the monsters a little bit of an advantage. Scum are kind of a weak monster, I believe. At least they were in previous editions.
So, all right, here's a little snippet, a little tidbit, that's in the sidebar. It says, could it be that aboleths are older than the gods? That before the divine ones came to be, such horror shaped the universe? Now there's a chilling thought. So, like, what if you had a demon lord level power of an aboleth, that you wanted to, muck around with? I think there's enough building blocks there to take something from that challenge 10 into a challenge 18 to 20 plus.
And also, scum are not the chumps that I remember. They are CR5s with 93 hit points.
Wow.
And they have an ability called Mind Breaking Touch. Melee weapon attack. 4d8 psychic damage. Okay, not bad. The target has disadvantage on wisdom saving throws until the end of the scum's next turn. Well, what does an aboleth like to do? And that ability is not, that's not a saving throw for that. It just happens when they use it on you. So yeah, scum are out there touching the PCs, the players, or their characters, I should say. And in the meantime, the aboleth is trying to enslave them. So enslave that barbarian, or the fighter, or one of your other damage dealers, maybe the rogue.
Who's got the lowest wisdom in the party that hits hard?
Yeah,
you're now mine.
So yeah, it could be a very bad day for somebody. Also, with that, it's past 9:00. It's that 9:03. Time. So as always, we want to thank everyone who hung out with us tonight. And we'll be back next Monday for our patron-only hangout. So if you're a patron, look for the link, and you can come and hang out with us. We do about 45 minutes. And then, again, we'll be here Tuesday, and we'll do this all over again. So with that, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.